let me ask you something. How much of what you believe is actually, true? And how much is just a really, really good story your own brain is telling you? Well, it turns out our minds are incredible storytellers, and sometimes they use that power against us. Just imagine, you're kicking back on your couch, and that ad for the huge sweepstakes you entered pops up. The one with the prize that would change everything. And for just a second, you let yourself go there. What if? What if that was my door they show up at? You can almost see it, can't you? The prize patrol van screeching to a halt outside. The cameras rushing your front door. That giant, ridiculous check with your name written on it in big, bold letters. In your mind, it feels real. It feels exciting. And yeah, it feels totally possible. But here's the catch. The advertiser's whole job is to sear that image of the one smiling winner into your brain. What they don't show you, what you never, ever see, are the millions and millions of people who lost. All you see is that one success story, so your brain goes, hey, that could be me. Okay, so this little mind trick actually has a name. It's called the Availability Heuristic, and it's one of your brain's favorite go-to shortcuts. Basically, if you can easily remember an example of something happening, you automatically assume it's more common or more likely to happen again. The more available that memory is, the more real it feels. So here's the bottom line. Your brain cheats. It swaps a really hard question, like, statistically, what are the odds of this happening, for a much easier one. How easily can I picture this happening? And what's easy to remember, it feels more true. All right, let's take a closer look at this mental shortcut, because it's about way more than just lotteries. This is a fundamental part of how your brain operates, and a pretty wild experiment proves it. So, in one famous study, people had to go through two pretty unpleasant experiences. First, an 8-second blast of a loud, really grating noise. The second option was that exact same 8-second blast, but with another 8 seconds of a slightly less annoying noise tacked onto the end. Now, logically, the second one is worse, right? It's all the same pain, plus more. But when asked which one they'd rather do again, most people chose the longer one. Why on earth would they do that? Because their memory wasn't of the whole experience, it was dominated by how it ended. That less painful ending was the most available part of the memory, so they judged the entire 16-second ordeal as being better. We judged the whole thing based on the last piece we remember. Okay. This brings us to the kind of mind games we play on ourselves all the time. And you can actually feel this one working inside your own head. Let's try a quick test that researchers love to use. All right, quick. Don't overthink it. Just go with your gut. Are there more words in English that start with the letter R, or more words where R is the third letter? Which list feels longer to you?
If you're like pretty much everyone, you probably said words that start with R. And that makes total sense. Your brain can just zip through its mental dictionary for words like run, read, write. It's easy. But trying to scan for words where R is the third letter, like car, park, word, that's way harder. It takes more work.
But get this, the reality is the complete opposite. There are almost 3 times as many English words with R as the third letter. It's just that because words starting with R are so much easier for our brains to find, we wrongly assume there are more of them. It's a perfect, crystal clear example of how what's available isn't always what's real.
Now, this isn't just some fun party trick. This mental shortcut has some really serious consequences. It actively twists our view of the world around us, from big social issues all the way down to personal risk.
For example, a 2005 study in South Africa asked people about crime after they read the local papers. The feeling was overwhelming. Crime was way, way up. But the official government statistics, they showed the exact opposite. Crime had actually been falling. The stories that were available in the news created a feeling that was the complete opposite of the facts.
And this distortion happens on a global scale. If you ask most people which country has more people, Iraq or Tanzania, they'll usually say Iraq. Why? Well, because Iraq is constantly in the headlines. It's mentally available. But in reality, Tanzania has 10 million more people. Our mental map of the world isn't shaped by data, it's shaped by headlines.
Okay, so this is where it gets really personal. because this bias dramatically warps how we see risk and what we think we should be afraid of.
Think about it. The media covers every act of terrorism with vivid, heart-wrenching detail. The stories are shocking, emotional, and incredibly easy to remember. Car accidents, on the other hand, they're so common they barely make the news. And the result? We end up fearing the rare, dramatic event way more than the everyday thing that is, statistically, much, much deadlier.
This had tragic, real-world consequences. In the months after the 9/11 attacks, the image of flying was so terrifying, so available in everyone's minds, that tons of people decided to drive instead. One study estimated that this switch led to around 300 extra deaths in traffic accidents. The fear of one risk literally pushed people into a statistically more dangerous activity.
And you see this pattern everywhere. We're terrified of sharks, right? Thanks to movies and dramatic news stories. They kill about 8 people a year worldwide. Meanwhile, good old horses are responsible for around 200 deaths a year. But we don't really think of them as a threat. The dramatic story always wins against the boring statistic. So, what's the big takeaway here? We're living in a world where our own brains and the media we consume are basically partners in crime, working together to paint a picture of reality that is often completely out of whack. It's really a perfect storm. Our brains are hungry for drama. The media knows this, so it feeds us a constant diet of the most shocking, rare, and scary events because that's what grabs our attention. Then we share those same stories with our friends, which just reinforces the whole cycle. I mean, nobody ever tells a compelling story about the millions of people who didn't get struck by lightning yesterday.
And these warped perceptions have huge, real-world consequences. Just look at this. In the U.S., spending on the military and anti-terrorism is 25 times greater than federal spending on cancer research. But cancer kills 250 times more Americans than terrorism does. Our fears, shaped by the stories we remember, end up dictating our priorities in ways that just don't add up.
So what can you do about it? What's the defense against your own brain? It's simple to say, but hard to do. When you're trying to figure out what's really going on, you have to force yourself to look past the flashy, memorable story. You have to actively go looking for the boring numbers.
This availability heuristic is a powerful, powerful force. But just knowing it exists is your first line of defense. So the next time you see a headline or hear a story that makes you feel really angry or scared or just absolutely certain, pause for a second and ask yourself, is this the story or is this the reality? What's the number I'm not seeing?